I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Now, if I could have both Pastor Humphreys and Captain Neal come join me up here, we're going to have a presentation of the Bass Trophy. I think you all know that one of the charitable operations that we do here at the Worcester Tea Party is we support the Jimmy Fund, and it's noble work to eradicate cancer. We come together with people who don't always agree with politically, but that we all can agree that cancer is a scourge, strikes down people way too early in life. And we do our little bit to try and make this a little better, this world a little better in this way. So, I will cede the floor to Steve Quist, and he can present the trophy to both Ken Mandel and Patrick Humphreys from the Boston Tea Party, here to accept the rewards.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. On behalf of the whole crowd that we want to strike out cancer against, the Worcester Area Tea Party and the Boston Area Tea Party, I can't thank them enough for coming together and turn out striking out cancer kids. It doesn't matter your political stripes, okay, because cancer knows no political party. And what happens with kids, I think we can all come together and do the right thing and the right cause. Whenever we raise the money, it's 100% going to the Jimmy Fund. The Worcester Area Tea Party and the Boston Area Tea Party has been there and supported us. And they've done it for a couple of years now. So I want to thank all of you because we made this year a tremendous success. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Many athletes practice all year. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on that trophy. Now, I have put forward, and I've said it on the radio, you might have heard, I've put forward in a couple of different areas that we should dissolve the Worcester Tea Party as it is currently established as a 501c3 social good nonprofit entity, and reformulate ourselves as a labor organization. Now, as a labor organization, we would be able to better advance the cause of our political beliefs. Because, of course, labor organizations, 501c5 organizations, are granted more rights currently in our current regime. Now, we can debate this, but I feel that we need to go to the source. And we are very blessed and very lucky to have with us a gentleman coming with us all the way from Boston, from the Mass Fiscal Alliance, be able to explain to us what's going on with this, and why Matt has this crazy idea that we should become a labor union. He'll be able to articulate some of the things that are going on Beacon Hill and why they're manipulating things differently. So I will present to you Paul Carney. If you can come on up.
Let me just grab my stuff and I'll bring it up here and then I'll start talking. I'll leave these here for you guys, but I'll also kind of send some around. Come on, take one and pass it around. My name is Paul Carney. I work for a group called Massachusetts Fiscal Alliance, which is a 501c4 nonprofit organization. And all that means is we are a social welfare organization. The things we care about are right of center economic issues and we always deal with state issues. So we don't really touch Congress or federal issues, although when they impact Massachusetts, then we do. What you see in front of you that's getting handed out is a brochure. We are a group that created a first of its kind online legislative scorecard, and that continues to get updated pretty much daily, sometimes weekly, depending on when the legislature is in session voting on issues issues that we care about. But I encourage everyone to go to that website, massfiscalscorecard.org, and I also have another brochure. And I'll explain them to you briefly. But as far as what we score, and what is a score, what we found was that it's very hard to find how lawmakers vote in the state in a way that is easy for anyone to identify. Most of the time, if you want to find how someone votes, you have to dig really deep in the legislative website. Hopefully you can find it if they're updating how they actually vote. And that's a big if. And it's not really timely when they disclose how they vote, if you can actually find it. Committee votes currently are not even public, so no one knows in the state how the legislators actually vote when they're in committee, and all bills have to go through committee. So what we decided to do is, let's make it easy. Just put it on a website, make it so anyone, doesn't matter your party affiliation or your positions, anyone can see it, and we give them a score based off of our positions on those bills or those amendments. So that's a score. So if you're voting 100% with us, that means every vote we've scored, you're on the right side of issues with our organization. If you're at 0, obviously that means the complete opposite. And it's really interesting. Now what we score are only bills and amendments. So we don't score if someone proposes an idea and never gets voted on, and we don't score if someone endorses a candidate, or even resolutions. Resolutions are just like things that get signed by different lawmakers saying, let's I don't know, let's honor the Boston Red Sox winning the World Series or something like that. And then when we score votes and amendments, it's only economic ones. So that's budget, taxes, spending, and state house transparency. We don't score like Second Amendment issues. Like I know Goal, some people are familiar with Goal, they had a big effort recently.
Yeah.
We don't score some of the social issues, but that really doesn't come up that much in the legislature, believe it or not. And even ones that we may even be like holding our tongue with, running our tongue, like election bills that come up, we don't score those. So strictly wallet, pocketbook issues, and good government issues. So that's like the most benign issues you can think about in the state. So if you look at this, this is a flyer. We printed off 500,000 of these. A lot of trees perished in this process. And we took these and we have been sending them out across the state in various communities. These are newspaper inserts in addition to being handouts. And it's probably somewhere, I kind of stopped counting, but it's probably somewhere around 70 newspapers in the state have received these. I know we're pretty strong in Worcester County, so you'll see these from time to time where people say, oh yeah, they have a score of 90% or whatnot. But again, this is to get you to the website. If you go to the website, you can put in your zip code or your legislator's last name or first name, and that's how you can find them. And if you find your legislator, you can click on that person, he or she, and their profile comes up. And it's very simple. It's a description of the bill. Let's say, for instance, lawmakers proposed they should only be voting on bills that they have 24 hours in advance notice to review. That was rejected. We said it should have been passed. So you can see it right there. We took 3 issues in the House and Senate, raising taxes by $500 million, 24-hour review for bills before they're voted on, and committee votes should be public. Pretty self-explanatory. Taxes were raised, we said no. 24 hours before bills should be voted on, we said yes, they said no. And requiring committee votes to be made public, we said yes, the legislature said no. Not many people know that. If you look in the state Senate, which is a smaller page, again, $500 million tax increases, we said no. The legislature of the state Senate said yes. Require photo IDs on EBT cards, because that's taxpayer money we're talking about. We said yes, the legislature said no. Reveal the cost of Obamacare on Massachusetts before it was implemented. Let's just know what it's going to do to our economy. We said yes, they said no. So it's amazing. Most people, I'd probably say it's debatable, 93, 90% just don't know how the legislators vote, the lawmakers vote. The average voter, I think, I've heard studies spend about 7 minutes to 15 minutes a year on politics. I don't blame them. Think about their jobs, their kids, their family, all these other things, getting to and from work. Politics is not that important. And so we decided to say, let's just make it really easy. We'll send this in the newspapers. This is called issue advocacy / election communication. And we're talking about this, we're lobbying ideas, not lawmakers. And this category, actually, we are lobbying lawmakers, but we're not electing or defeating them. We're just taking the issues and telling you how the lawmakers vote. We're going to be doing a lot of things like this over the next few months on a much bigger scale than what I'm explaining right now. And we're going to be encouraging voters to contact their legislators, contact their lawmakers, their state senators, or state reps, and tell them to reverse most of the time their positions on the issues. We're very aggressive in how we do this. We're a 501c4, so we can spend a good amount of our resources doing this kind of stuff. And there's only a few groups in the state that do this. The Pioneer Institute is a group that most people hear about. They are a foundation, and all that means is that they can come up with really good ideas, but they're very limited with how they can lobby the legislators. So we can take some of their ideas, we can take other ideas, and go pretty hard with what we spend our money to lobby per se. So in this little brochure, I actually have these in all my suit pockets and almost everywhere that I bring to work. But these are, again, a teaser to get you to the scorecard website. And all it is all the lawmakers and their score. That's all it is. So it's pretty neat if you like the sports stats or anything like that. You look at that kind of stuff, you look at this kind of stuff, and it's pretty neat. So I can pass this around too. We don't have a 500,000 of these, but I think we have only 10,000 or so it should be good. But I'm happy to answer any questions. If you guys have any questions, I can talk about what's happening in the State House recently. They are pretty busy, but happy to answer.
Do you testify at all?
I do.
You do. Do you get any film of that? Do you have any recording of it at all? Does the State House have any record of your testimony?
So I'm a little surprised how difficult it is to find, votes. I was talking about votes, how hard it is.
Right.
Testimony is another one that really frustrates me in Massachusetts. And I say this because Boston's an hour from Worcester. And if any of us wanted to testify, you can't, for the most part, you can't go online and watch testimonies as they're happening to see people testifying or committees talking to the people that are out there. You have to go to Boston, you have to park your car, you have to sit there an entire day. And if you want to testify, you have to wait your turn. So it's very inefficient, and it's basically, in my opinion, made to discourage people to get engaged.
Right.
So most states have it so that if you want to see testimonies, hearings that are happening at the moment, you just go online.
Right.
It's pretty simple. Everything's online these days.
Right.
But Massachusetts, hearings and testimonies, for the most part, are not online. The vast majority aren't. Occasionally they will be when it's something they're really pushing, like the minimum wage increase, they're really pushing that, so of course they made a big deal about that. But I've testified, I find it very frustrating because most of the time it's an entire day is sitting and waiting my turn.
Right.
And I do, but it's tough. It's very frustrating. A lot of times what I do, I try to lobby the committee members themselves, but even then it's difficult.
Yeah.
Well, is it recorded?
No.
Oh, I thought, okay, I've seen Rob post things and he says, well, it takes like 2 or 3 days to get to the information. It sounds like they actually but it sounds like it's a raw feed. It sounds like it's, here's 8 or 10 or 12 hours of video. It's not broken up. It sounds like he had to go harvest it or something. I'm not sure.
Every committee is a little different.
Okay, well, this was, I remember this because of like some of the budget debates, Justina's Law, where they actually had clips of the legislators talking about it. It seemed like he had gotten it from someplace, but I'm not sure where.
So that's committees, when they're on the floor, they're actually out there at the podium speaking. Mm-hmm. That is, for the most part, that is online. You can watch it as it's happening.
Oh, committees are, you're saying
committees where the bills are, where the public's allowed to testify.
Okay.
That's the one that's very frustrating, but you can watch the legislative debate. For the most part, they don't have any problems with their system. But it is pretty tough.
The reason why I say that is there's an interest at the Worcester Tea Party to, if we can get access to that, to your testimony and what you're responding to, because you cannot attack really. You have to be more policy based. But we can go and we can call people out and we can be a little bit more attack worthy. And we're a Tea Party, so we're intended to be that. So I just want to encourage you that if there is a means of figuring out how we can get our hands, I know I'm in Rhode Island now, and we can actually give DVDs to Capitol TV, and they will burn them for us. We can rip them, and then we can he can put segments on that you want and comment on them. And we think that's going to be very effective. We like to work here at Worcester to do the same thing, because when you're right, exposing this type of thing is good. When you're wrong, like you said, you want to bury it.
My testimonies are on our website, fiscal.org.
It is.
Yeah, our written testimony.
Written testimony.
Yeah, written testimony.
Right.
But it's, I mean, we, as a 501c4, we are pretty aggressive in this state. We're spending significant resources out of the office, where we're educating voters. So we are pretty out there, and there's 200 lawmakers, and they don't always like what we do.
Right.
But we feel like we're on the right.
Yeah, definitely.
Because again, this is a 500,000 of these things were sent out, and we get responses all the time from people thanking us, or people that are upset because they think it's partisan, but it's not. If you look at it pretty clearly, I mean, look at this. If you look at the state senate, State Senator Timilty, he's a registered Democrat. He's always pretty darn high. He's at 82%. So again, I mean, we have a Democrat who's going the right way, and he's getting good scores. So that's
It is so few.
yeah, it is a dying breed, and this is specific to our issues, which are economic issues. And then in the state house itself, you can also see some high scores for some certain needs as well.
And I'm curious about the three questions you have here. Now, number one is vote to raise taxes. I understand the Democrats are going to vote for that. But the other two, what are the arguments against a 24-hour review and require committee votes to be published? How do they justify that? Do they actually say anything?
No, I heard that when the committee votes were not made public, that's a rules vote early in the 2-year session. So, every 2 years there's a session that starts in the old session, and they have to agree on the rules, and that's when all those votes take place. And some lawmakers were saying they didn't have the technology for it, which I thought was absurd. It's a $36 million budget, and you can't take committee votes and put them online. That wasn't it.
They can't do a website, you know that.
They use the power of the process to their favor. And I'll give you two quick examples. About 2 weeks ago, the budget came out. It was the House and Senate version of the budget. So it was agreed on all these different amendments attached to it. And on Sunday night, it was released. Monday, in the House, they were expected to vote on it. That's less than 24 hours. And that's what they do. That's why they keep the rules the way it is. This way, it's essentially, give the voter before you read on it. One lawmaker from Worcester County was actually quoted in statewide press saying, I didn't read it, I glimpsed it, but I trust the process. Well, again, this is the same process that last year's budget brought the first of its kind software computer sales tax to the state, and they had to repeal it. It's the same process. And again, I think it was last week with Goals, with their bill, that was released on a Wednesday morning, and they were expected to vote on it Wednesday. So that's the process that it's intentionally designed so that it becomes very hard for the public to respond, and for even legislators to be able to read and figure out if there's anything that they object to. So.
All right, we're talking a lot about the gas tax and how they're going to increase the automatic gas tax. And if you look at the last report by Reason Magazine, they had that our administrative costs for our highway here is 6 times national average. I know this gets a little in the weeds and maybe it's very interesting, but have you guys been able to figure out, or has anybody given any justification as to why, administration of our highway must cost 6 times as much per mile as it does in Ohio or any other state?
Yeah, someone said the prevailing wage, that's definitely, the prevailing wage is definitely something that has a lot of cost to anything in Massachusetts. And that's something that I didn't know what it was until I started working in this job, but it's essentially, it's like a union type of wage for anything that's municipal and state built. It just costs more money. And the way they determine the wage, the prevailing wage, is by region. And I know it's very disproportionate. I mean, obviously, skilled labor in Boston is going to cost much more than skilled labor where I live in North Andover, but I believe they're all kind of on the same scale. So the prevailing wage is a big one. It's just that all the different regulations and the cost of doing business in the state, the cost of living in the state are amongst the highest in the country. So when you add all these different layers of reasons why it's probably like it's 6 times. But I've heard those figures before. What I a lot of times go back to, and I've seen this study before, is you look at like the state of New Hampshire. Because sometimes people in Massachusetts say, wait, we cost so much for our infrastructures because we have these horrible winters, salt goes down and destroys our roads. But if we look at New Hampshire, who has a much more friendlier business climate, they're much more efficient with how they spend the money on the roads than previous years.
I remember it's going on 3 years ago, I was in North Carolina looking at colleges with my son, and I was driving around North Carolina. I know North Carolina has low taxes, and I could actually feel myself physically getting tense and angry because I saw all these beautiful highways, and they were nice lawns and gardens, and they were clean, and there were no cracks, and there were potholes, and I'm thinking I was physically getting angry over seeing that what we could have. And when I drive through Worcester and see the weeds and the trash and the crappy roads we have, and we're paying 3 times as much as what they're paying down there.
Yes, it's like that with most services.
The statistic, he said, was the administrative cost.
Yes.
That's managers.
Yes.
The guy who said, yes.
Well, that also feeds into the prevailing wage law.
It's a very interesting, the Reason Foundation report is very, very interesting, very interesting.
I tell you, Reason Magazine does that every year. You go to the Reason Magazine, it should come out sometime now, it only comes out in July. And we're like 47 out of 50, and there's no reason for us to be 47 out of 50.
On the administrative cost, we're like 47 out of 50 or whatever it is. The next state that's one tick up above us is New Jersey. Who does it for, I think our administrative cost is $66,000 per mile. Theirs is $20,000 less. $20,000 less.
Wow.
New Jersey, and I'm thinking we're more corrupt than New Jersey.
Oh,
I mean, well, I know, but that's.
Last month when the CFO of the Department of Transportation was in Worcester, and a few of us went over to the hearing on the new registry fees, his justification for the registry fees was that we needed to invest in new technology so we could do a better job of collecting the fees.
We need to express the lack of service to these people. We just need to
But the
laugh.
thing you have to realize, we don't delay traffic on bridges like they do in New Jersey.
You mentioned that the members don't seem to mind the transparency, that they trust the process, that they trust their speaker, 3 out of 4 of which have been convicted felons recently. And the fourth one's working on it. But have you ever thought about maybe going through and maybe tracking, because it is the speaker says do this and everybody says how high on the jump. Have you ever thought about tracking, like, okay, they vote with the speaker 99.99% of the time?
Yeah, that usually comes out every year. They're going to be done with session hypothetically at the end of this month. Usually that's when those stats come out.
Okay. You develop those stats?
No, other people do.
Okay.
Yeah, and that stuff is available, but what I always point to is the fact that you're right. There are some real partisan votes, roll call votes out there, which is really unfortunate. And the committee vote, I remember that was a perfect example where they're setting the stage early. We're coming up with rules, and I think in that vote there wasn't one Democrat lawmaker who voted with the Republicans on that committee vote. And that kind of shows you again, when leadership says they want something, everyone needs to be in line. And the other one is the budget. That's always one that every year, no matter how bad the budget is, you're told you have to go for that budget. So it is frustrating. I wish we had more diversity of opinions in the State House, but we really don't. But again, Utah's scorecard is the tool for anyone to use, and you can see how these lawmakers actually vote. It is kind of neat. Sometimes you will find some liberals voting with us on some issues. Their motives are sometimes it's not taxing enough, so they're voting against it. It's really hard to figure out their motivations, but sometimes they do vote with us. And then some of the issues, they're not as partisan as what you think. Yesterday, the state senate voted down. They voted against lifting the cap on charter schools in urban areas, and that was very unfortunate. But you did find a few liberal lawmakers in the state senate that voted with the minority when it was shot down. So you do find some kind of back and forth with these roll call votes. It's kind of neat. Again, you will find some registered Democrat lawmakers who are pretty high with us as well, and even some Republicans, not on these, but if you go to the actual website, that are not as high as what they should be with their colleagues, with their colleagues. So it is a tool, and we have basically 2 staff people that focus on this a lot. Whenever we update the scorecard, we always post on Red Mass Group. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that website, but we post an explanation for the votes and why we scored them. This way anyone can kind of see our reasoning for it. Yeah, it's really interesting. Our office is right by the State House, and if you ever go visit the State House, I always encourage people, go around the State House as well. And you'll find one building after another building right next to it, and you'll see what the dynamic is, but they're all pretty much union-affiliated offices. And they do that on purpose to influence what is happening in the State House. And then you have us, Mass Fiscal Alliance, as well. But that's kind of the culture up there.
Christopher Mader from the Meat and Potato Show, Conservative Talk, Awesome Rock. I've been reading some of the early biographies on Roosevelt, and some of the things that he's gone through when he was in the New York state legislature, that he actually had to deal with 1910, 1912 version of the Tammany Hall there. It sounds like the same thing is going on here in modern day Massachusetts. Would you agree with that? Roosevelt had to deal with that. Yes, we're trying to pass legislation, but he has to deal with the Tammany Hall version that he had to deal with in New York State. But it sounds like we're dealing with the same thing here today. Either you vote with DeLeo, the bosses that are in charge, or you're out. And does this transpose to some of the Tea Party candidates that are running here in Massachusetts for state rep, state senator, who I've interviewed on my show, that they themselves are being pushed out because they're not towing the line? What's your opinion?
There's a really good national group called the Sunlight Foundation. They're not partisan. They rank all the 50 states on the budget process, and they have a form where they look at like 10 different items, and they continue to give Massachusetts an F grade for the budget process. And they'll tell you, they actually tell you bills most of the time you can't copy them. They're PDF format. They give all these reasons for why it's very difficult. But it kind of goes to your point that we have a really broken system in the state, and we constantly see it. Last year, the legislature voted, like I alluded to before, they voted to create first of its kind sales tax, 6.25% sales tax for computer software services, which was very broad. And they quickly had to repeal it, which was a great thing. How many times does the legislature go into session to repeal a tax? Maybe like once in our lifetimes, but they did in Massachusetts. But now, we could have been happy for a minute, but what really needs to happen is we need to fix the process. Because that computer software tax was adopted without one single public hearing on it. And until we actually can fix the process, we're going to continue to have these problems no matter what.
So the essential answer to your question my question is yes, we're dealing with a modern day bossism, as in the biography of Roosevelt. It's bossism. It's either toe the line of the Democrat Party, toe the line of DeLeo, toe the line of what's going on right here, or you're out.
It's very focused on leadership and what they want to do.
It's the same thing. It's bossism.
It kind of goes along with what Chris is saying. Tell me if you've seen this. I heard this from a state rep. He was telling me a story about how, this was a few years ago, he was kind of orienting a new state rep who was just been elected, and and it was her first vote. And the Republicans had made some kind of motion, and it was being voted on. And she looks up and she said, all the Democrats are voting for it. And she's thinking it was going to pass. And he said, no, wait. And then he's looking up, and one the vote in the upper right left corner was the speaker. He said, wait for that one. And when that one switched to no, then all the Democrats switched to no. All the yeses became no. Is that how it worked?
Yeah. Yeah, there's lights, all the lights. That's
They should
exactly
take
right.
video of that. It really just should.
Okay, so Patrick said you should take video of what happens in the gallery in the legislature. It's actually prohibited.
Wow.
Hold it,
So-
it's prohibited?
It's prohibited. The average person, you can go to the State House and you can sit in the top gallery and watch how they vote. But as soon as you bring out your iPhone and start taking pictures, you get a tap on the shoulder saying, excuse me, you can't do that here. And again, it goes to the process. They have these rules on purpose so that it becomes very hard for the average voter to engage. I learned that actually kind of the hard way, where I was having a good time just kind of taking pictures of what was happening. And I got asked, can you please stop doing that? Let me see your phone. You need to delete these pictures. And I said, no, it's too late, but I'll stop doing this. And there is a sign when you walk in the gallery that says no photos, no videos. But that, again, that is the process of Massachusetts. That's our democracy. So when the Sunlight Foundation gives us an F, they have a lot of reasons for why they do. And it's because the basic transparency that everyone in this room expects is not actually real.
Yeah.
But let me give,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
I'm just curious, what's yours, what's massfiscal.org? What is your source of funding? Strictly all, is it strictly all volunteer donations or?
Yeah, we are really funded by individuals, corporations as well. Our group was started in 2012. I was actually, so a little bit of background, I usually start with this, but I didn't. I was born and raised in New Jersey. I went to college in Massachusetts. I worked in politics in New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Washington, D.C. Wow. For 5 years, I was working in Washington, D.C. As the executive director of the Washington, D.C. Republican Party. And my wife and I got married down in D.C. She's from Massachusetts. And we always wanted to come back home. My adopted state, her native state. She's actually from Worcester County, too. And to raise a family someday. And accidentally, over Christmas break one year, I met a guy named Rick Green. He's our board chairman. And Rick was just sitting across the table from me. We were talking, and he just had this crazy idea of starting a group that didn't have a name but had a purpose. And I was crazy enough to leave my job, tell my wife, let's go. And for her to leave her job, we moved up to Mass. And the rest is history. But that's when Mass Fiscal started, when two guys that were just crazy with an idea started to sell this organization in 2012. And since then, we've grown it where we have a small office in Boston. I have a staff of 4, and I like to think we have an aggressive budget to try to educate voters. We continue to grow every year, which is good, but it's completely funded by people like you guys in the room that like what we're doing and support us. So.
And the Coke brothers, you must get that.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, yeah.
Thank God they picked up my cards again, that's all I have.
They pay for everything, right? No, I don't think they have any interest in what we do right now, but yeah, it's, our kind of main opponents on ideas for the most part are unions. They're the ones that really spearhead a lot of policy in the state, and we're kind of trying to give that other voice. And we do get involved in talking about the rules, but even like election law, we're trying to get more engaged with. In Massachusetts, if any of us wanted to give a contribution to a candidate running for state office, the most you can give per calendar year is $500. If you give $501, it's against the law. If this restaurant as a business wants to give money to a candidate, if they give a penny, it's against the law. If this was a union office, however, they could give up to $15,000 to any one candidate. So you have unions being able to give candidates $15,000, you have individuals of $500, and then you have corporations who can't give a penny. So in Massachusetts,
So everybody understands why I want us to become a union, right? And we get cool hats.
So lately, we've been really trying to push hard to fix that. About 3 weeks ago, Steve Rep. Brian Fatman from Worcester County proposed an amendment to election law bill. And unfortunately, Ryan supported it, not one Democrat chose to join it, but essentially would have created parity for individuals and unions. And then this same bill is now going to the state Senate. Next week they're going to vote on it. So when you hear the lawmakers talk about passing disclosure bills for PACs, for super PACs, just ask them, how did you vote on bringing union contributions down to the individual limit? And they're going to look at you all scared because they didn't want to touch that. But we're always trying to kind of level the playing field with the average person and the big kind of power structures from the state, which are the unions. So, you have a question?
So how do we break this? As I said before, the biography I'm reading about Roosevelt, this is exhibit Tammany Hall. He had 1910, 1912 version of Tammany Hall. We saw it through 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And here we are now dealing with unions. It's a modern day Tammany Hall. They've got the money. They've got the power. They've got everything in their pocket. And they're doing everything to squash everything that we're doing. They're even doing everything to squash the Tea Party candidates. Look at McDaniels. Look at some of the people that I've interviewed on my show. Colonel Reed Breezer from Texas. Great American combat pilot, squashed out by the Republican Party. Mark Callahan out in Oregon, who's been on my show, squashed out by the Republican GOP. All of them. All of this money, this power, everything. How do we break that? How do we breach that wall?
You live in Massachusetts, right?
I live in Massachusetts, yeah.
Go to our scorecard.
I know I'm asking a rhetorical question.
Go to our scorecard, look up your two lawmakers, your state senator, state rep, and start contacting them, tell them how you want them to vote. That's the first step, is getting engaged in the legislative process. You just have to get engaged. That's the bottom line. You have to speak up. There's different ways of communication. You can call your state rep, you can pay them a visit, you can email them, you can pay them a visit or send them a letter. They get a lot of emails. I wouldn't really do that too much. I would call them and tell them who you are, your constituent, you live in his or her district. You tell them you want them to vote a certain way. You have to put these people on notice. And don't expect when they respond to you that they're going to say pretty much whatever you want, whatever you want to hear. And we found that a lot, especially with last year's vote on the $5 million tax increases. We found a good amount of lawmakers who said I voted against it. I voted against the gas tax. And when you press them, they said, well, yeah, I have voted against the gas tax, but it wasn't referring to the one that was just passed.
Right.
So, you really have to hold them accountable and just expect that some will be honest, some may not.
It's just pressure. Pressure.
Use our scorecard. And if you pay them a visit in the State House or in the district, they will take notice. I will say this, they're told kind of what to do, but when you touch them, not physically, but touch them with the, consistent reaching out to them, a lot of times they don't respect that from their constituents. Yes, sir.
An idea along that line that actually just kind of popped into my head. Have you ever thought of having your membership of your supporters and groups like this, maybe right into their local newspapers, their local patches or whatever, and actually highlight the score, give out the link, and say maybe this is a good thing to do. You're putting it into newspaper inserts, and maybe have those letters to the editor actually showing up roughly around that same time to drive people to your website, to your organization, to get people more engaged.
Yeah, it's all of the above. It really is.
I'm thinking a letter writing campaign would be something that would catch a lot of people's attention. People come to meetings, etc., but there's other people who just you read their weekly newspapers, and that's about as involved in politics as they get. But
I would encourage you guys next week have a table set aside where you guys have a computer with internet and start writing little letters to editors, or even contact your legislators right here, because they definitely need to hear from you guys.
And just to state, you have no problem with people publishing. So like say if they monthly that had a large coverage region, if they wanted to excerpt, say 15, 20, 30 legislators scores, you'd have no problem.
Yeah, use our website. It's there, it's on the web, it's great. And we, like I said, we spend a good amount of time updating it all the time, so it's accurate and it's current, so, yeah.
I'm at a disadvantage because I can't do it doesn't do me any good to call my state rep because my state rep is Ryan Tappan and he's already 100%. So it won't give me any more.
Well, if I don't want to
what he does. He lives 2 blocks from my house, so I'm not gonna do it.
If you have a state rep though, that is going the right way, it is very important to, yeah, they love to hear that too, it's not like patting them on the back, they love to hear that constituents are happy.
Actually, it's not your state rep anymore.
They're your state senator.
State senator.
But, my question is,
We hope.
are we making any progress?
You do, 100%. You do. Last year, we made tremendous progress when they repealed the tech tax. And that was very significant and meaningful. That was a big victory. Like I said, how many times in Massachusetts does the legislature go into session to repeal a tax they just
Right.
passed?
Yeah.
That's very rare.
Then we have the automatic gas tax. That's gonna be on the ballot. We pushed hard for that. Everyone, I'm sure there's people in this room who pushed for it.
That's right, the gas tax is about it.
Pay for gas tax.
You know, that's another opportunity, but yeah, you do make progress from time to time. But you know, the best thing you do is just get engaged. It's great that you guys meet, but you have to take it one step further. You have to look up your rep, your state senator. Like I said, you can email them, but remember that's the most passive communication.
Well, my theory is that, you know, we have these PACs, and we have these power brokers, and we have all these people who are in charge and who are controlling everything. And my theory is that maybe we might have to become as evil as they are, in that we form our own PAC, we raise our own money, we become our own powerful, legal, political action committee, our own thing. I love the Tea Party and I love what we're doing, that it's a grassroots thing. But there's something, we need to go over that one step further, where we might actually have to deal with the devil, where we actually have to raise the money, become a political action, become that corporation in order to fight other corporations.
Yeah, anyone's also able to make contributions too. I mean, you don't have to wait for a PAC, you can just do it whenever you want. So, just that's again, getting engaged.
I'll apologize in advance because I'm going to do the same thing, but not ask a question, but make a statement. I'm a marketing person. I know how much it costs to print something like this out, particularly at $250,000, $500,000 of them. I want to encourage you to get in touch with me, because there's so much that we're doing in Rhode Island that is free. In other words, if you spend an entire day on Beacon Hill to testify, if we can figure out how, if they do any kind of recording of that, audio or video, and then getting it to us, and then what I'm doing is I'm taking the testimony from the Rhode Island Center for Freedom and Prosperity, which is very similar to Mass Fiscal Alliance, and I'm taking their testimony, they send it to me, I cut it up, and I comment on what the person's like. In other words, there was a person who was testifying recently about the health exchange, how they need to funnel how many billions of dollars that are spent privately towards health care in Rhode Island, that we should just take all that money that's being spent privately and funded through the government and basically create socialized health care. And then Mike Stenhouse's testimony to that was stunning, and it was awesome. And we're fortunate that they put it online, so I can pull it down and I can manipulate it. I know it would probably take a lot of effort to figure out where we can get that video, but if we can do that, then that day spent there, you put that on YouTube, and you place honestly your video on there. It'll cost all the days worth of work and some time from the Worcester Tea Party, which we put in obviously for free. And that video will exist online and be shared by every member of this group for nothing forever. And it'll cost a fraction of this, and it'll exist forever. Once this 500,000 are gone, they're gone. That video will stay on forever. So I encourage you to take my card and talk about that.
Obviously, print again, but yeah.
Right, but it costs money. Whereas YouTube's free, and you got the viral aspect of it. If it's very good, the testimony has to be good, and the editing has to be good.
That's
but
a
I
good point.
strongly encourage, you know,
Appreciate that.
you're very welcome. And
They'll probably do more opportunities for testimony next year.
right, because the session's probably over now. Right, but I think we should spend the time now figuring out how, if that's recorded, and if it is, how it can be attained, and then working that mechanism so that we can get the road running.
Yeah, it's the same thing with me. I mean, you'd be surprised the simple stuff that I put out, that I do. It's viral. It's everywhere. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
This question, actually. You may be familiar with a gentleman named Noah Cloverger. He's from a group that I would refer to as the evil mirror image of your organization.
Yeah, I know exactly about it.
What is there some sort of way that we could perhaps have a debate between people from your organization and people from his organization? I really feel, and I genuinely feel, that the truth is on our side and our positions are sound. Therefore, every time we're going to have a confrontation with people who want to take all our money and make all our decisions for us, I feel they always come off poorly. Is there a way that we could somehow facilitate a debate, maybe like the Worcester Public Library, Boston Public, wherever, college or something? Would something like that be something that your group would be amenable to?
Yeah, I've done some things like that before with legislators. It's not very often because most of them don't want to debate.
Right, I would think.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm always open to that so long as it's on issues that we follow pretty closely.
Well, yeah, we wouldn't ask you about gun control,
Yeah.
but obviously about taxes and about I mean, you definitely have a keen understanding of the process problem, the process which leads to this sort of soft corruption that we're talking about. You know.
Yes, I'm happy to. But I think lawmakers, there's 200 of them, so you have a better shot of trying to sketch something like that. But if you know your lawmaker, and if they're open to it, I'm open to it as well. Happy to do it.
Because then if we had such an event, we could of course have Chris Mader from Meat and Potatoes show videotape, but we can have John do all the video splicing and dicing, and then we can all be turning the wheel and putting this out on the internet so it goes viral.
Yeah, I did that last year with State Rep in Framingham, and it was with not a Tea Party group, but a group that was advocating for lower taxes in their town. And the State Rep was kind enough to do it with me, and I think Chip Faulkner was there from CLT, and he was also part of the panel. They called it a panel, so the State Rep talks about basically increasing taxes, and I talk about why we should increase taxes, and you can decide who's right or wrong. But yeah, I'm always happy to do that kind of stuff.
The scorecard is kind of an after the fact thing. Is there a way for us to, do you know what's going to happen fiscally so you can tell us when we should be calling?
Yes, that's it. So can you answer my question? Can you ever anticipate what's going to happen in the state house so you can call them in advance and tell them go yes or no? And the answer is sometimes. Big issues like the minimum wage they were talking about for quite some time to increase, we can anticipate that. We can know that they're going to vote to increase the minimum wage. But again, when they propose a budget on Sunday night, they're asking lawmakers to vote on Monday, or for instance that goal vote from last week where it's on a Wednesday morning and they're asked to vote on Wednesday. There's no way for us to be able to tell constituents to go vote, go contact their lawmakers on those issues. And again, that is done on purpose. Each committee is different as well. If you want to do hearings or you want to testify, some committees they have a schedule a year in advance. Others it's 2 or 3 days in advance. They'll let you know. And it's very frustrating. It's very hard to track what's going to be up for hearings in different committees. It's very difficult. But if you want to know that kind of stuff, we do when we know bills are coming up or amendments are it's not amendments, but when we know bills are coming up that we can contact the lawmakers, just go to our website and sign up for email updates, massfiscal.org. If you go to the scorecard, there's a button that says homepage. You go back to our homepage, and when we know a bill's going to come up for a hearing or come up for a vote, we will tell our members to go contact their state reps and tell them to vote yes or no. So when we know, you'll know. That's the answer. If we don't know, you probably don't know either.
There's no other way to know.
No, unless you're the head of a committee.
Question, or a couple comments or questions on transparency. You mentioned the Sunlight Foundation. Just people should be aware that they actually have an application called Congress. If you have an iPhone and an Android, it actually has all the legislators on there, and you can actually call them from your phone directly using that application. You don't have to go looking up the number. You just bring up the page. You bring up the legislator. You say you want to call them, you do. You can also see the bills that they're sponsoring. You can also, there's also a ticker down the side that also has the bills that are currently being worked upon. So it's a very good application. I wish there was something like that for Massachusetts.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, no.
Well, I was wondering if if they would ever consider like having an application like that developed by states. Maybe your organization, would say, we'll do the groundwork, getting the raw data that they need. Something like that. Would they maybe do something like that?
It's possible we could do something like that.
Just a thought. I mean, because that would empower people
Yeah.
much more. Something that they easily look at.
Anything mobile?
I mean, our scorecard, if you
You
go,
can bring it up on-
yeah, it's mobile friendly, so it's right there for you. It's incredibly easy. You don't have to subscribe, you don't have to sign up on an email
You
list.
can bookmark it.
It's right there. It's just pure data. And like I said, if you just go to massfiscalscorecard.org, even .com, it'll bring you to the same page. You just put in your zip code, press enter. Your two lawmakers pop up with their score. Click on each one. Their profile pops up with how they vote, our stance. It's just that simple. So anyone
Can we connect to Obama?
how do I?
Can we connect to Obama?
Well, and to follow up on that, I was in Friday morning group, so I kind of want to get a clarification. People were saying that the Massachusetts bills are not online. Now, you can't actually go look up a bill number and look at it, but what is the quality of that? Is it maintained regular? I mean, you say that the legislators are, they're put together Wednesday morning and they're gonna vote on it Wednesday. Are they pretty much keeping that, I'm just curious, do they keep that actually up to date and?
Sometimes not.
Okay.
Amendments, I don't believe there are online. Amendments are, if you have a bill, you can attach an amendment that's relevant, if it passes. And that's after the fact. But again, that's the process. That's actually, I think, okay, because you make an amendment on the floor, on the bill at the times. So that's a little different, but I don't think amendments are online unless it's already passed.
Yes, but didn't the Leo once say, and I think it's a statement that he made to the press last year, there's gonna be no more press, no more public hearings. It's quite literally, they're gonna operate under a closed session, right?
Yes.
Right, yeah. This is, I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but this was in the press, I think, last year or so, that's it. Thus, now, we have the automatic gas tax, no more accountability from these guys.
Yeah. I'm not sure what you're referring to. It could have been their adult session. But the automatic gas tax, that is kind of a new concept for some kind of like liberal, progressive, add the rate of inflation to tax increases. We've also found, I think Amazon is doing this in Massachusetts. Amazon is obviously a very big internet company, and they're trying to collect taxes from other states for Massachusetts.
Right.
And they're trying to do that so that lawmakers will get used to that. From what I understand, what they're trying to do is trying to collect taxes before they're needed to be collected before the law is passed. So there's always like kind of the cutting edge of how they want to increase taxes, so you have to keep up with it.
Yeah, basically, the Leo has gone on, and they're not going to have any public hearings anymore. It's essentially a closed session.
I don't think there are more hearings, but it's also late in the legislative
You
calendar.
just said it. Yeah, I don't think there are.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, but what I'm saying is the lawmakers are now voting on the bills and stuff, so the hearing process has ended. And it will start again next year. But even some of the very progressive liberal lawmakers, they're kind of like next 8 to 10 year goal is to take the flat income tax rate in Massachusetts, or whatever tax, is to have a flat tax and make it to a progressive income tax rate. So if you earn more, you pay more. Essentially, that's what they want to do. And that's been actually on the ballot quite a few times. I think 4 or 5 times, and every time it's failed. So that is good. So that's kind of that's in Wisconsin they did pass right to work. In Massachusetts, the other side is right now trying to pass what they call the progressive income tax.
California just has passed legislation at the gas tax tied to inflation. The gasoline now, average tax, gasoline prices over $5.
Yeah. recent increase was 3 cents. And once Massachusetts passed that 3 cents, we actually went above the national average for state gasoline tax. We were right in the middle, now we're just above. But they really don't like to increase the gas tax with a vote. I think the last time they did it was in like 1991. So they really don't like doing it because they know everyone has to drive and it affects them. But even like I was saying, you have to look for it. If you get engaged, you start contacting your lawmakers, start paying attention. It's wonderful that you guys are meeting here, but really start contacting. You'll find, all these kind of fads of how they can tax you some more. There was one hasn't done it. Luckily it hasn't done anywhere right now, but they wanted to track your miles that you drive.
Right.
And they're gonna tax you based on your consumption of
The
miles.
Easy Pass, the Easy Pass. Marty Lamb just sent me a bunch of stuff on my Facebook page that he couldn't believe that they're tracking his miles.
But that was one form of tax that was discussed, and that some lawmakers really wanted to push. But that's kind of where they're going with all this stuff. You have to follow what their
That's why
trends
they
are.
took the tolls down.
Yeah.
So we're getting rid of the toll takers.
Yeah.
That's part of the plan.
You guys have any more questions?
Do you know the latest on gun control?
No.
They were supposed to vote on things today, they changed it again.
I don't, because that's just not in our,
Hey, you work with Mass Fiscal Alliance, right? That's not gun control, right?
we stay really focused with our issues, on economic issues, but, yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Just, kind of my last question. What other groups are you aware of that are good ones for us to plug into? I mean, there's Citizens for Limited Taxation's been around for decades. You're an up-and-coming organization. There's tea parties all over the place. But are there other organizations out of Pioneer Institute, Beacon Hill Institute, although I haven't heard much from them. How about some of the other ones that you're aware of?
So a really good publication to read once a week, really good, is Boston Business Journal.
What is it,
Boston Business Journal. They are, I think, the most consistent economic conservative publications. The Herald is very good, but the BBJ, if you read it once a week, the editorial page, it is spot on almost every time. And it's consistently, conservative on economic issues, and they're not afraid from it. They don't run from it. They're very good. I subscribe to them. I read them every Friday. I think they have an app for your phone. But the BBJs try to keep up with what's happening in the state house, and they'll feed it to you once a week. But look at their opinion section. I really like their stuff. Most daily newspapers, for the most part, are pretty conservative editorial boards. If you get outside of Boston, I know the TG, I believe their editorial isn't that bad. They're pretty good. I live in North Andover. The Tribune is very good. The Little Sun has a good reputation as well. A lot of the daily newspapers are pretty receptive to a message of lower taxes, more transparency. They are, at the end of the day, they are businesses trying to make it.
And some of them beyond published this young gentleman who seems to like articles from time to time. You know anything about that?
I write a column every other week in 2 daily newspapers. If you sign up for our email updates, you will get relevant. I don't push out every column, but ones that I think are better than others, I do push out. But I write columns every other Tuesday for the Tom Daily Gazette and the Fall River Herald News, and a lot of times they get picked up on other papers as well. But there's myself, Barbara Anderson from CLT, Jeff Jacoby from the Boston Globe on Sundays. And then you start really running out of people to read. Thank you guys.
I want to mention you all should have received one of these notices about a little teaching about the NDAA. It's next from tomorrow at the New Cafe.
That's the 25th. 25th. 25th.
From tomorrow?
You said tomorrow, sorry. I thought you said tomorrow, sorry.
I hope so. Okay, and it's on our Facebook page.
I'll send it to everybody also. I got it too. I'll
I
send
do
it
want
to
to tell that it's open mic night. I'm hoping Matt will go up and sing some.
Oh, right.